Tick, tick, tick. And we're live. Dixon, how's it going, my friend?
Going well, having a spooky week leading up to Halloween. Been reviewing some old favorite horror films. Plan to continue that this evening and tomorrow night.
Halloween. It's not really. We were talking about it a little bit. It's not really a thing here in the United. It is a thing in the United Kingdom, but like most things, it was brought over. It's an American influence thing. Halloween, I
hmm
don't think properly existed here in about 25 years ago. It was something people knew of. It's like
See, the
Black
thing is,
Friday.
like, I find that interesting because Halloween, as I understand it, and admittedly, I have not researched and read, and I understand it got taken over as Christmas did by corporate influences and
Yeah,
secularized and all that. But I mean, when you get right down to it, Halloween is the All Hallows Eve, right? It's at the
yeah,
sundown before All Saints Day. And so it is it's a Christian holiday. It's a European holiday. I mean, I don't know that it originated with, the idea of kids dressing up, is like Captain
yeah,
America or Spider-Man
yeah,
with a bucket and getting candy is very American. But like the notion of the holiday, I think of as being well predating America. And so I'm a
yeah.
little surprised that there's not more of an interest in it. Anyway, who doesn't like a good horror movie? I mean,
I think
English produced horror movies. I mean, there's many of them and they're quite good.
I think if they had seen the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, that may have brought Halloween a bit more forward. I think that would have been a more formative show to popularize Halloween. That's my opinion.
That's your serious theory. It's
That's
all
my
about Charlie Brown.
I don't have a serious theory on it. We because we don't have kids, and we spoke about this a little bit. Halloween does not exist. We are the house that shuts our doors. We close our
No fun
windows.
house, you mean?
We are the no fun house. We are the
Yes.
house that we advertise no candy here, and I think that's how it works here. I don't know if it works the same back home
Oh
still, but
yeah. I mean, if you don't want to participate, you shut the lights out and you keep the house dark, and that's the signal to everybody that you're a non-participant. But I mean, I always gave out the candy even before the kid. Of course, in South
mm,
Philadelphia, we would have the light on and nobody ever came. I don't think we ever had anybody trick or
mm,
treat. Then we moved up here the first year we didn't have kids, and I want to say we did get a handful of trick or treaters. And I don't know. I've always been a Halloween fan, so
mm.
but we didn't get that many. And the one thing is, I was surprised to learn in my neighborhood, people will keep the lights on till 9 o'clock at night. I mean, I think that's too late.
Yeah, well, that's a 9 o'clock. I think is. I remember 9 o'clock being the limit when we would go. And when you got sort of in that I'm too old to trick or treat, but too young to not trick, or young enough to get away with it. You were pushing that
Yeah,
9 o'clock window, and you could
yeah,
tell people were just like, and that was the good time to go because you were getting the rest of the candy dumped into your
that's
bag,
true. That is
but
true.
but you would also get all the candy corn as well.
Yes, yes, and you would get the dirty looks from people who thought you were too old to be doing it, and they were probably right.
They were 100% right. It's a weird. It's a weird thing in hindsight, but I think about the last time I went trick or treating, I think I was 13, and I just put on a Flyers jersey, and that was it.
Yeah,
And they
I
they looked at me, the disgusting looks I got, and it wasn't because I was wearing the Flyers jersey, but just for one, showing up late, two, being too old, and three, not really giving a shit when it came to
yeah, the no
costume
effort
design.
Halloween costume, exactly.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
skate in my hand, and I think that made it worse.
Oh, my dad used to whine every year about, trick or treaters who were too old and blah. And I remember he told me I forget whether it was what was the last year I was allowed to go out,
Yeah.
whether I was seventh grade or eighth grade. I might have conned it in eighth grade, but after that, like high school was like, no way. And I remember people in high school coming to the door, like I'm being
Mm.
like, hey, because I was no longer allowed out. My father laid down the law. No, no trick. And I mean, by the time you were a sophomore or junior, you would have been embarrassed to do it anyway. So,
Well, maybe it's a good time because I do have that clip of doing something a little bit Halloweeny before we go into we're going to be talking about, for anybody who, we don't have any viewers yet, but for anybody who's watching this back, we're going to be doing Stand Your Ground laws, which is always an exciting and not depressing subject whatsoever. But maybe we dip into a little Halloween story. The one story I can find here, I thought I'd share this with you. I found. And it's alleged photo of. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to find. Never mind. Forget that. I'm gonna have to edit around this because I'm not prepared today. Why don't we talk Stand Your Ground laws?
yeah.
So you,
Our
a lovely
producer's
segue.
giving us the
Yeah,
like move it along
yeah.
signal here. Right?
This is the person in the back of my head saying you've really fucked up by just trying to wing something, and you really need to back out now.
Yeah.
So I'm backing out. I'm calling that one an L, and then we're going to go in the direction we intended. So you actually stand your ground laws, and the reason this came up, you sent me a message this week, and
I did.
living in the United Kingdom again, and we've talked about it a few times. It's a good way to scare away live viewers. Is guns here is always a fascinating subject to me because I live here. And you sent me a news story that referenced stand your ground laws, and I fell into this rabbit hole of reading these stand your ground law cases, just reading what it was or what entails stand your ground, and I was shocked. And this, you brought a story to me for and I can't pronounce his name. It's a deal. Let me try to pronounce it. This is a recent case in Texas. Adil Darugi. I think that's a Darugi. Yeah, Adil Darugi. 31. Do you want to explain this one?
So Adil was coming home from some kind of an event, as I understand it, and it was late at night. And he pulls into the driveway of a home that is not his. And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning around there. I mean, it's deep into the evening, 3:30 a.m. Okay. And by the act of doing that, I guess his headlights shine into the house or whatever, maybe the engine noise. But for one reason or another, he wakes up the owner of the home, one Terry Turner. And Terry Turner, peers outside the window, sees the car in his driveway, grabs his gun, comes outside. And at that point, according to the story, Adil is already backing up and out of the driveway. Is it because he sees the owner coming out with a gun in his hand, or is it because, we don't know why he pulled into the driveway in the first place? I mean, I certainly know that my parents' house is on a street, and Sean, from having been there, where another street dumps into it. And it was not uncommon at all because of, I think, people looking for directions, trying to find where they're going, for people to turn into my parents' driveway as part of doing some kind of a K-turn to turn around and go the other way when they'd realized they'd made a mistake or missed their turn or whatever it might be. So we don't know why he pulled into the driveway. It's entirely possible that was the reason or anything else. But at this point, he is backing out of the driveway, and Turner shoots him through the window of the car, in the head, kills him, goes back inside, dials 911, and tells them, "I just killed a guy."
Yeah.
And the reason I brought this to your attention, other than it's very timely, but to me, this is an excellent demonstration of why the stand your ground law, any version of it, is really horrific and damaging. And it's demonstrated so clearly in this story. And what I was thinking about was the fact that one of the tests of guilt, when people try to plead not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, essentially the insanity defense, right? One of the supposed tests of that is, do you make any effort to conceal, what you've done, or flee the scene, something like that. And so, that's often used as, if someone attempts to flee or run away or otherwise hide what they've done, it's proof of knowledge and understanding of guilt. And so, it obviously works against a mental disease or defect or insanity defense. Here, I mean, the effect of the law is this guy shoots somebody who is backing out of his driveway. There is no conceivable world in which someone backing out of your driveway poses an imminent, real, present threat to you or your safety.
Can I add some context to
and
that?
Yet he shoots him and then goes inside and calmly calls 911 as though what he did was perfectly justified, because probably in his mind it is, because of the existence of that law. And that's what caught me so much about it.
And by the way, just so we have a comment here, Americana, how's it going? Y'all, how's it going? Did I say y'all right, by the way?
Sounded all right.
Y'all. So the few little bits that I read, I think I can add some context in, because it was 3:04 a.m., which apparently Adil, it was fairly common for him to drive around late at night. I don't know if he had insomnia or whatever the case may be. And he actually him pulling out was, I think, down to the homeowner coming out, because he was sitting there with headlights off. The homeowner comes out with a gun, he turns on his headlights and he pulls out. And he was actually shot as I think you said this, as he was reversing.
Right.
But this is something I agree with everything you've said with that. I mean, you're talking about somebody, and one of the things that I think there's a theme with these cases we're going to look at is the people who are in danger or perceive a threat, which is what the stand your ground law more or less is. If you feel threatened or you feel your life is at risk, you now have license to kill, pretty much.
Right.
Now there's some nuance and context to that, so I'm not dumb enough to think that's the whole thing. However, the thing that I struggle with in just about every one of these cases, everyone goes, and this is where you were alluding to, goes from a position of safety and sort of bunkered in with a weapon, fine, and they put themselves in danger before they end up killing somebody. So they physically have to go towards the danger to be able to put themselves in a position to shoot somebody.
It's an interesting
And that's
point.
bonkers.
Yeah, no, it is bonkers. And we don't need to spend and the reason why I brought it to you is because I just read the article and I was like, we have already covered what's his name in Florida, right? Who is
No. We're talking about yeah, what's his name? It was one of my favorite ones that we've done that nobody's watched, and I'll probably put a link in here. It was, what the hell was his name? It's in our playlist. I'll put a link in the description if you're watching this recorded.
the one outside Jacksonville, right?
The loud music murders. So the guy who, I can't remember his name. If anybody knows who it was, a gentleman had shot people. He claimed to see a gun, and this is another theme because this gentleman said he saw
Michael
a gun.
Dunn.
Michael Dunn. Yeah, thank you. But this gentleman, I think it was Terry Turner, also said it's the same excuse. I saw a gun and I shot. And of course, Adil did not have a gun. So it's.
I don't know how he saw a gun in the dark through a window when the headlights were
in his
shining
face.
at him. Yeah, no, that's the. I mean, I think it's obvious, but what's so again striking is that he picked up that phone 911 and called 911 and reported himself as if there's no problem with what he did. And again, it says to me what's wrong with the law is it tells, as you said, it gives people them the belief that they have a license to kill because someone pulled into your driveway and is now backing out. Really?
Yeah. Well, because I think there was another one that came up, and I wanted to share this. This will probably mean, I don't know if this is going to hurt our ability to share this video or for people to see this video, but my wife was looking at some of this stuff because my wife's British, and I was talking to her about stand your ground laws. And again, whenever you speak to a Brit about gun stuff in America, it's almost like Hunger Games over here to them. It's like a dystopian world when we start talking about gun laws in America. Again, this is not me giving my opinion on guns, but she had been just sort of searching around. She was curious about it, and she came across something on John Oliver. Now, I want to stress, I don't like sharing things from John Oliver, and full disclosure, I really like John Oliver, but I'm not going to. I don't like sharing things from him because he is, considered a very left-leaning person. But he brought up a story on Stand Your Ground Laws, and he referenced a gentleman named Joe Horn. And I've checked this story, and everything that John Oliver says is factually correct. There's no slant in what he's saying. Of course, he's got an opinion on the topic, but I wanted to share a clip from this because I saw this, and this was even more bonkers than the case you're referencing. Had you heard about the Joe Horn shooting in Texas? This is in Pasadena, Texas.
No, I only came across, my browser recommended stories to me. So it was only by chance that I came across the Adil story.
Okay, so I'm going to play this. Hopefully you can hear it. Make sure you give me a wave if you can't. Why isn't it sharing? It's just a bit slow. Okay, here we go.
In some cases, you very much can, including one of the very first stand your ground cases in Texas, that of Joe Horn, who called 911 to report a burglary happening during the day at his next door neighbor's house.
I've got a shotgun. Do you want me to stop him?
Nope, don't do that. Ain't no property worth shooting somebody over, okay?
Joe Horn sounds clearly upset.
I'm not going to let him get away with it. I can't take a chance on getting killed over this, okay?
No.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot.
But the 911 dispatcher warns Horn to stay inside at least a dozen separate times.
I've got officers coming out there. I don't want you to go outside that house.
Then Horn, sounding angrier by the moment, cites the new Texas law.
That I have a right to protect myself too, sir, and you understand that.
Yes,
and the laws have been changed in this country since September the 1st, and you know it and I know it.
Yeah, Joe Horn knew what the law said, and despite the dispatcher warning him not to go outside 14 times, he did just that and killed 2 people, with autopsy reports later showing that both men appeared to have been shot in the back. He was explicitly told that property is not worth shooting people over, which is obviously true and certainly not your neighbor's property. If I found out my neighbor shot and killed 2 people to save my PS5, I would move tomorrow. I know they're hard to get your hands on, but Jesus Christ, calm down. I don't want your blood console. And thanks to Texas's new stand your ground laws, Joe Horn was never arrested, and ultimately a grand jury declined to ever charge him with a crime. And not only was Horn spared any consequences, he was later celebrated as a hero.
You had 911 on, and you said, I'm going to go stop them. You got to get here. I'm going to stop them. They said, no, don't go out. You stopped them. They came towards you. You shot them.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And
okay.
So I'm going to stop it there. It's remarkable. And just add a few little bits of context to the story. There was somebody who witnessed, there was a plainclothes police officer who witnessed the shooting. He had come out of his house. He went to the neighbor's house with his gun. He stood on the front lawn. The 2 people came out and they were robbing the house. And what the plainclothes officer saw is he saw somebody running towards him, but not directly towards him, to get to the street because he had a gun pointed at him. And I don't know what happened with the other one, but he shot the suspect fleeing. He had actually passed him, trying to get away, shot him in the back at that point. And I think both were ultimately shot in the back. And that's when he went, I think, back around, or that's when the police showed up to sort of process the scene. But holy shit. I mean, how does he not get arrested? I don't understand how in a grown-up society that happens.
It's an interesting one. I have to say that's an interesting case because obviously I think that the law does cover him to some degree as written in that situation, except that, like you said about the case with Terry and a lot of these cases, the person's going toward the danger. He is not endangered until he elects to put himself potentially in danger, if you assume that the armors are robbed or the robbers are armed, excuse me, which I didn't hear you say that they were. So I don't, yeah. So there's that. I mean, it's hard, I will say, to have a lot of sympathy for people who get shot while they're committing a robbery. Like, this is the risk you run. You know what I mean? Like, if you decide to break into somebody's home and take their possessions, I mean, everybody knows that's wrong. And that this is America. And you don't know what home you're walking into.
And that's different than stand your ground laws. What I found, there's 2 different things. There's stand your ground laws and there's castle doctrine. And castle doctrine is, if anybody here is not familiar with castle doctrine, it's pretty much, it gives you a bit of license to open fire if somebody's coming in your house. Stand your ground laws take that castle doctrine and pretty much put it into the context of, if you feel like somebody, like if you're in fear for your life outside of your home, you have the right to defend yourself, because there's a third option, which is something like right to run or something, where there were laws before stand your ground, before the castle doctrine, that you couldn't use lethal force if you felt threatened. It's duty to run or something like that, where you have to run away. I actually don't. So my views, and I don't want to go into a whole gun thing. I don't have a major problem with people in their home having handguns or shotguns. And I can understand that. I don't have kids, but if I had kids, I can understand somebody wanting to protect their house, even though there's a lot of issues with having guns in the house. There's a lot of people who do get killed accidentally having a gun in their house. I don't want to get into that. But if, same as you, I have no sympathy if someone's breaking into your house. You break into somebody's house and you get shot. Not you, Dixon. I like you. But if somebody gets shot breaking into a house, I don't have a lot of sympathy as well. And there's a part of me that thinks, in Texas, a robber may be more selective about breaking into somebody's house, knowing that everybody who inside their house has a gun has a license to shoot.
Yeah, goddamn! I know I wouldn't be robbing anybody's house in Texas. Dear Lord.
Now, I don't think this qualifies as stand your ground law, though, because you need to be I think the stand your ground law actually says you have to be approached, or somebody has to be approaching you and threatening you.
Right.
If somebody's in the house next door, by leaving your house and going next door and confronting somebody, you are now putting yourself in danger. That person's not putting you in danger. And I think that mitigates the stand your ground laws. And it's, for me, I think that I was reading quite a few things about it. There's a lot of lawyers that would say, yeah, this doesn't fall under stand your ground law. It doesn't fall under castle doctrine. He went and he approached them.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that therein lies the difference, is that he,
Yeah.
again, as you say, and so I don't know that it's a good challenge to the stand your ground law. I think he should have been indicted for, because I would assume that a regular police officer would be trained that if a suspect, first of all, you can't shoot suspects in the back; they're retreating from you. You can pursue and make an arrest, and but that police don't have a carte blanche to shoot somebody who is not holding a weapon, posing a threat, or posturing threateningly at them, right? You can't. So the same rules ought to apply to a citizen, over whatever it was. You're right. I mean, it's not even his property; it's his neighbor's property. I mean, I don't know how the neighbor felt about it. It'd be interesting to know. But I agree with you. Like if I found out that or John Oliver, I guess, that if I found out my next door neighbor blew somebody's head off to save my, whatever possession, I mean, like, I don't know that I would ever enjoy that possession again. So,
Well, and I just want to listen, because the thing I found funny about this, I want to play this back, because this guy sounds like, for as threatened as he is, in my head, when I listened to this back a few times, I picture him making a sandwich while he's talking to the dispatcher. He just sounds very calm. Like, this does not sound like somebody who's
And you
afraid.
understand that.
Yes.
And the laws have been changed in this country since September the 1st, and you know it and I know it.
I know when I'm scared.
Yeah, he's
for my
lawyering.
Life, I know when I'm scared for my life, the first thing I want to do is get in a political debate with a 911 dispatcher.
That's an excellent observation. I agree.
That is the first sign of I'm afraid for my life. I want to talk politics. So, to even think that you've made a case that you are in fear for your life, locked in your house with a gun in your hand. I mean, if you were to speak to, and this is something that the Ahmaud Arbery case is a little bit different, but which we're going to be coming on to. But the thing with this case is he is not somebody who is a trained officer. He's not a police officer. He's not somebody who's his responsibility isn't to protect people. His responsibility, whatever his job is, he's a retired individual. But that's not something we don't want just citizens on their own, just going out there and being Batman effectively. They're not superheroes. And that's where
I have a question about this story, though, about that plainclothes policeman who observed it. Why didn't the plainclothes policeman who observed it identify himself and stop it?
So I don't know the whole context of this. It was in one of the articles I read. I think he had pulled up, and at the point he had pulled up, he saw Joe Horn with the gun drawn on the two suspects. And that's when he then noted somebody fleeing. So a plainclothes officer may not have been.
A plainclothes officer should, but you have a badge.
That's distance, or where there's a lot of unknowns here with this, but it's just for him. Joe Horn's like, I have a gun, and one of the things with guns, and I said this before, I think guns are quite cool. I love mechanical items, and if anybody has a gun, anything I have that's quite cool, I want to use it. And I think it's just like, oh, good, somebody's breaking in next door. I can use my gun. This is awesome. And I think there's a big element of that. They want to be the superhero, and they want to use that gun they bought. That safety valve.
Yeah, they want to be Rambo. Sure.
Crazy times. There's one other thing I wanted to mention with that, and I sort of got off track because I'm certain I've got early onset dementia. I'm pretty sure. We'll have to come back to that. But anyway, we can move on to Ahmaud Arbery. But again, this gentleman's free. No issues. Oh yeah, I remember the point I was going to make. Thank you everybody who's stuck with me on this one. If you were to speak to a Navy SEAL or a police officer, I know 2 police officers here. Now, granted, it's a different country. And when you talk about self-defense classes, you talk about making sure that you're alive, healthy, and being able to be a productive citizen and not shot and killed or murdered. If you're in a position where there is danger next door, even any soldier wouldn't engage somebody if they didn't have to. You know, people in the military aren't like, okay, great, there's an issue over there, I'm going to go be Batman, unless they're ordered to do so. If their job is to stay safe and alive, they're not going to engage somebody, especially a 75 or 65-year-old man with a shotgun.
I mean, I think when you watch him in that Fox News interview you played, he just looks like he looks like somebody who was looking to shoot somebody, you know, and waiting for an excuse. And these people gave it to him. I mean, he looks like an angry dude.
He was later celebrated as a hero.
You had 911 on, and you said, I'm going to go stop them. You got to get here. I'm going to stop them. They said, no, don't go out. You stopped them. They came towards you. You shot them.
Yes, sir. That's
right.
correct.
Lie, right?
There was so much context and nuance.
Look at that face. Look at that face. That is an angry man's face.
I think that's somebody who feels a bit guilty.
Mm.
I look at that.
I don't hear a trace of guilt in his response.
It's you know, I think too, when you shoot somebody with a gun, and this is me, and I think I've said this to you a long time ago. If somebody breaks into my house and you were to say to me, you know, I was speaking to you the next day, I say, hey, Dixon, how was your night? You know, not very good. Somebody broke into my house, and you'd say, oh, well, what happened? Well, somebody broke into my house and I shot him in the face and killed him. I don't think you'd be like, wow, great, that you are a hero. You are that's amazing. This is a great story. I'm going to go tell my kids. Now, if somebody broke into my hat and I said, I beat the living shit out of them with a baseball bat and they went running, you'd be like, you are a badass, my friend. That story is a lot better. I think a baseball bat holds a little bit more hero points than a gun.
Agree.
And if you're going to use a golf club, you think you want to use a driver, you use a wedge or a putter. Putter's
something with a big metal end.
That's the thing. Everybody gets this at a golf club. You're going to think driver. No, you want a putter.
No. Driver head's not that heavy.
Yeah, but no, the putter is really dense piece of metal, and the shorter.
That's what I'm saying. That the driver head is not that heavy.
No, it's hollow, and I think that's a misconception. Always get the putter.
Yeah.
So let's go on to Ahmaud Arbery, and have you heard about Ahmaud Arbery? Are you familiar with that story?
No.
I think I can't remember the name of the gentleman. I'll bring it up in a second. Are on trial now as we speak.
Okay, I've not familiar with this case.
I think we're accidentally topical on this case.
Oh boy.
So what I'll do is, just to give you a bit of insight here, Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed by two gentlemen. One gentleman was filming and trailing. Ahmaud Arbery was seen in the neighborhood looking at a job site. The job site was
yes, I am familiar with this case.
Yes, shell of a house. He was a black guy in, I think it's Alabama, or no, in Georgia, which is problematic in itself. And he was looking into a house. It was a job site. He didn't take anything. And I think this was the night before, and people had recognized him. Now there was crime, I guess, burglaries in the area, and people saw him jogging. He liked to go jogging, and people in the neighborhood saw him jogging. And the three gentlemen decided they were going to catch him. So one gentleman pulled his car out and tried to actually stop him from running, and the other two got in their pickup truck, chased him, caught up with him. He wouldn't stop. Shocking. The one jumped out with his shotgun. Ahmaud Arbery tried to get away. I think he grabbed him. He got away. The guy had a shotgun. He came back and tried to grab the shotgun. And then the gentleman in question shot Ahmaud Arbery and killed him. And it took 3 months before they got arrested. 3 months. So what I'll do is I'm going to play a news story that I think does a good job of summarizing what happened, and also plays the stories from the actual case. So sorry, their stories from the case. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted. Dementia.
Questioning the three men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery was released this week. In the video, the man who filmed Arbery being shot and killed, William Roddy Bryan, admits he tried to block Arbery several times to keep him from getting away. News4Jax reporter Kelly Wiley walks us through the video.
So real quick, I'm going to stop this because I'm using it. So this is Roddy. He isn't actually one of the people that was in that pickup truck. So this is the pickup truck that followed Ahmaud Arbery. He was the gentleman who, and he's going to talk about it in a second, was trying to stop Ahmaud Arbery. He pulled his car out in front of him, and then he followed and filmed the encounter on video. And the video wasn't released right away, but that's who the first person who's being interviewed is. So he wasn't the one directly in the car, but he was on the team, I guess.
I don't know.
Newly released body camera videos show interviews with the three suspects at the center of Ahmaud Arbery's death. In the newly released clips, you hear William Roddy Bryan tell investigators he tried to block Arbery, fearing he would get away.
They got down to the end down there somewhere. I must have passed him because I pulled out of my driveway, was going to try to block him. He was going all around it, and I made a few moves at him, and he didn't stop.
Bryan's attorney, Kevin Goff, first.
So interesting. What are your thoughts there with that as sort of an outsider here?
Just in general, that these people are running a sting operation on this guy. And he was like, again, this is the situation where I believe two of them are father and son, correct? Am I remembering?
We're gonna hear from father and son very shortly.
And they suspected he was poking around a construction site to steal copper piping or something like that.
Yes, they claim that there was robberies in the area. So because I guess because he's black, ergo black eye neighborhood robbery, we have our suspect.
Yeah. And I do have some familiarity with this case, and it all struck me as, again, it's the Batman factor. It's people who aren't trained, acting as judge, jury, and executioner for some guy, almost certainly because of his race. Yes.
Yeah. So it gets interesting though. So just to make sure we're covering Roddy, who is acting like, listen, I'm just a witness here. I have nothing to do with this. Roddy was on the team originally trying to stop him. So without, again, they're not police. Now, the one gentleman was a police officer, actually. So I think it felt like he had a bit of clout to get involved. But they felt like it was their duty to stop him, and it was his duty to stop for them. They felt they had some unalienable right to ask this person to do exactly what they wanted, even forgetting the fact that he would be, they would be perceived as a threat to him.
Said back in May, Bryan did not participate in the shooting.
Roddy did not participate in the horrific killing of this young man.
No, he just recorded it on video. He made sure he covered that, which they didn't release until 3 months later.
911 CAD reports show former district attorney investigator Greg McMichael and his son Travis.
So those are the two legends that actually were in the truck.
Arbery through the Satilla Shores neighborhood for 4 minutes after seeing him run out of a nearby construction site. The two claim they recognized Arbery from previous surveillance videos showing inside the open construction site.
My son got a shot. Okay. I said, come on, let's go. So Travis runs, he gets his shotgun, because the other night, the guy stuck his hand in his pants. And so I grabbed my .37 Magnum. It's an old Glenn County PD issue, by the way. When I was out. So
notice PD issue. So
notice he's never heard of a handkerchief.
No, that's what sleeves are for. I bet his sleeves look like a dumpster fire.
A week off. I jump in. My grandson's car seat is in the front, so we can't move it. Don't have time to move it. So I kind of sit on top of it. We see him come around the corner. He's going down here. We pull up beside him. Hey, stop.
Okay, so I want to stop this right here because, so let me just sort of rehash this and just put this into context for everyone to understand here. Let's say somebody has been robbing houses in the area. There was a gentleman, and let's even forget that he's black, even though that's a key piece of this. He was in a job site, and he comes out. They saw him in a job site the night before. They see him. They believe that's the guy. So what do you think? Like, okay, if this is you, what would you do at this stage?
Me?
Yeah. What would you do? So would you A, get your gun? B, would you get in your car? Like, what would you do if you believed there was let's assume that
a robbery in progress at a construction site?
Well, let's not even say a robbery in progress. We see there was a guy who was robbing a house. We believe last night. We believe we see him jogging in our neighborhood right now.
How do I know that I think I see him? Because of surveillance footage? Yeah, I mean, I guess if I genuinely thought that I saw someone who was suspected of burglarizing a house in my neighborhood, I guess I would dial 911 and say, I've got eyes on somebody that I think might be the person you're looking for.
Okay. So let's say, okay, so, and that's exactly what I would do. And I think that's what most sane people would do. Let's let Mr. McMichael continue here.
We want to talk to you. and he just keeps on running. And then Roddy pulls out at some point. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, we're past this house. The guy turns around and he starts running back this way. Roddy.
So I think they're really hurting their case here because he's essentially talking about somebody who is running away. Are you reading this the same way?
Sounds like it.
So somebody who sees a couple of guys shouting at him. So,
have any of these people called the police yet?
Nobody's called the police yet. No.
Yeah. See, I mean, like, I think the point you're getting to, if I'm anticipating it correctly, is that stand your ground laws kind of work both ways. I feel like this quote unquote suspect could have had just as, under the stand your ground law, had just as much right to pull, had he had one, a gun and start firing at these people because they were clearly threatening and menacing him.
If I was going for a run and I had these guys that I don't know in a pickup truck, one of which standing on the back, another guy trying to stop me with his car, I'm not happy where I'm at. I'm feeling very unsafe. But let's let Mr. McMichael.
I mean, listen, a pickup truck. Let me say one thing, because I don't know if you recall when George W. Bush was running for president in 2000, one of the issues that came up, because a few years earlier, while he was governor of Texas, I think it was about it was a handful of good old boys in a pickup truck ran down and captured a black guy, chained him to the back of the truck and drug him through, and they were all convicted of a hate crime, murder with a special hate crime add-on. They were sentenced to death. But the point is, like, there's a long history of good old boys in pickup trucks chasing after black guys, Yeah,
a black guy, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a lot of connotation here that people in this part of the world might be picking up, seeing this sort of posse trying to round him up.
Yeah. And if they're going to try to use the fact that he's running as evidence of his guilt, no.
it's evidence that he's trying to.
That he knows history.
Yeah.
He pulls out in his truck and kind of blocks him. So I said, Travis, go back that way. So I'm going to go head him off. So sure enough.
I should have. You know what I'm regretting I didn't do? I should have had the Dukes of Hazzard banjo music playing in the background while they're chasing him. Like, this is like Roscoe P. Coltrane.
He comes around, we come back down here, and he's right here. And he starts running past us. And Travis backs up and says, hey, stop, we want to talk to you. Or something to that effect. I don't remember exact words that was said. By this time, I'm in the back of the truck. So the guy, he's looking dead at us, he's like, from me to you. And he turns and he runs. Travis.
How many times has he turned and run away from these guys?
Yeah.
Gets out with the shotgun and runs up there. And, I said, Travis, don't shoot. Don't do anything.
Such a good father. Smart advice, Dad.
The guy turns and comes at him. And they start wrestling, and Travis shoots him around the chest. So we run out there to stop him.
And actually, we have Who Said Kate says, oh my gosh, I remember that horrific case you mentioned during the Bush years. It's awful. It is awful. And thanks for the comment, Kate. I hadn't remembered that. And it's one of those things I think you put out of your mind. There's things that are so sad that you don't want to think about it. And, the things people can do, it's amazing.
Talk to him. He took off running. Stop. He come out of the truck running at us. I told him stop till he hit me. I had nothing to do.
They've had him on video going into.
I had nothing to do other than blast him in the chest with my shotgun. Oh my God.
I shot him myself.
So,
this all goes to the point. And what I started with, right, which is the stand your ground law. And I think that the first case we looked at is the most dramatic example of it. Although actually maybe your Joe Horn guy is, that it gives people this notion in their head that they have a right to behave this way, and they don't.
No,
they don't.
It's a good comparison, Joe Horn, in this, because I think these are two different examples of where stand your ground maybe is hurting more than it's helping. With Joe Horn, you can make an argument that there was people that were doing nefarious shit. I love that word. I say it, I think, every week, in the neighbor's house. And it's the biggest stretch in the world to make that he felt unsafe. We don't believe he felt unsafe. These guys were chasing somebody that they believed was somebody, and they believed was a criminal. And these three people, now I appreciate the one was a police officer, but is not now, and they're not marshals of the law, decided that it was time to make a citizen's arrest. And they felt like, chasing this person down, that person should, because I think even Roddy at one point, he says in one interview, if he had just stopped and let us know what he was doing here, this wouldn't have escalated. So it's beyond belief that you can round up a posse, chase somebody down in vehicles, and expect them to go, oh, you know what, these guys seem all right, I'm just going to stick around, and they seem pretty important, so I'm going to do whatever they say. They're
Right.
three.
Especially that a black guy in the South should stop for 3 hillbillies in a pickup truck with shotguns saying, we just want to talk.
No way.
Yeah, no fucking ways. Right.
But the video, interestingly, the video came out because and there was an article I found. George, the father, I think his name's George McMichael, spoke to a friend of his who was the attorney general, I think, of Georgia. He was a district attorney, sorry, and released the video to radio stations. And I think they were arrested either a few days later. And he wanted to release that video so it didn't turn into another Ferguson, and he didn't want this to be a racial thing. And he felt by releasing this video was going to prove that this wasn't a race thing. And I again, if the video was dumb enough on itself, in itself, how dumb do you have to be to look at that video and think, oh, well, this clearly wasn't an issue of race. These guys were just trying to, protect the neighborhood. For us, we just want to talk as they walk up to you with firearms in hand.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
For us,
you're clearly a threat.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, listen, there is, it's an ancient tradition. Ancient, nothing in America is ancient, but it's part of the American founding mythology, I suppose. All those Westerns and things like that. Look, I've got a little ghost.
That's right. Little one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Memento Mori back here for Halloween. Ooh, this would be a good transition to the Halloweeny segment that we're gonna go. But there certainly is a tradition. Like, you think about Westerns, that a lot of these people, especially like Joe Horn, looks like he was probably of my father's, that baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
And they glorified, the posse of men out there, just taking the law into their own hands, and a man out in the West gets what he can keeps, and settles his own scores, and there's this kind of weird lament for the quote unquote taming of the West, the bringing of law and order, that something was lost in that. I'll tell you what was lost. What was lost was chaos. Just the chaos of people running around doing whatever they want. It's I don't regret it at all. So.
But this is why that has a pretty badass skull, by the way.
It certainly is.
Yeah, this is where I think in all of those situations, or if you look at and this is a good case of one where the second you approach somebody with a gun, and if I was in Ahmaud's position, you have two options: you can run, and people who maybe I think if you do run, that's your best odds of getting away from somebody with a gun, because it's actually hard if you're zigging and zagging to actually hit somebody. But if, let's say, you're in that sort of critical decision making point, I'm a big dude, I could see, okay, I need to grab this gun.
Right.
And
no, I mean,
at that stage,
because you know how a shotgun works, right? I mean, didn't he have a shotgun? Isn't that what he said?
It was a shotgun, yeah.
Shotguns blast. The whole point of a shotgun. Yeah, right. I mean, they're for shooting at birds and other critters, precisely because of that zigzag thing. Zigzagging will not help you, if you're within the shotgun's range.
I'm curious to see how this case progresses, because it's in court now. What about Roddy? Do you think he should be in prison? So Roddy, he pulled out. So Roddy's a funny story to me.
Well, I mean, except that they might need Roddy's testimony to convict the other two. I mean, would I be willing to give him immunity in exchange for his testimony? I suppose you have to make a deal with the devil if you're a prosecutor, but I would certainly be looking to charge him with accessory as well.
To me, seems like the Klansmen who like to go to the parties and like to dress up, but didn't like to do any of the dirty work. And like he was probably like, this is exciting. There's a guy running around. I'll get the neighbors together. I'll get Travis and George together. We'll go catch this guy. And he was falling behind with his phone thinking, oh, we're going to grab him. And then all of a sudden there was gunshots and he's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how that case propagates over the course of the next few months. We got Halloween coming up now too.
Right. Here, let's have the skull here, boy. Yeah, for those of you watching this,
Pretty scary.
Here's our transition music. Ooh.
Well, we found.
What do you have for us? Yeah.
Well, we found we found some. I thought we'd just read some stories here. We have a few ghost stories. So there was one that was called "Ghost Indecent Exposure." I wanted to sort of connect true crime. And actually, before we do, Faraz has a comment here. I don't understand how you're standing your ground when you're literally chasing this guy down.
Good comment, Faraz.
That is brilliant. Yeah, it's we're going to claim stand your ground laws. I mean, they probably burned a quarter of a tank of fuel trying to chase him down as they were trying to stand, trying to protect themselves.
Well, the ridiculous notion of stand your ground is like, as you said earlier, it's the castle doctrine where the castle follows you. It's a 6-foot radius around your person, I guess. But the thing is, again, it still should be stand your ground. Even the title does at least imply that it's like I'm standing here and Big Meanie comes along and says, "Hey, move, get out of my way," and I say no. It does not imply I am, Clint Eastwood chasing down the bad cowboy and Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Yeah, it's and every single one of those guys, they were sort of like older, kind of sweaty looking, heavy set, trying to be heroes. They very much fancy themselves. I actually found the video of the first story I was going to talk about. So I saw this story and I was trying to find something true crime and ghost for Halloween, just so we had some sort of an item for Halloween to talk about.
Exactly.
This week is a bit of a thrown together episode. We are going to be getting into deep dives again soon. Still recovering from my jet lag. It's been pretty painful, but I'll play this video here. And this video is called "Alleged Photo of Ghost Sex," and this is interesting. This is like harrowing stuff.
Okay.
While fear is in the eye of the beholder, this is usually enough to get people going. But for Diana Carlisle, it's something else. Something down and dirty inside her Euclid home.
It looked like it looked like ghosts having sex in my living room.
She can't even get through it. I mean, come on.
She is so full of shit.
Diana says it's true, and she has pictures of the dirty deed, if you believe. Take a look at what Diana's granddaughter, 4-year-old Kimura, snapped with a cell phone camera.
I'll try to pause it.
Inside the house.
That looks like Princess Diana.
So is that what are they trying to say? Is the ghost? I think this here is the ghost sex that they're talking about.
Oh dear. Who's in the foreground?
Well, this is a picture, I think, of maybe Diana. It's a TV. You know what? It says USA. So this is their TV.
Okay. Oh, that's not a logo from the
no
show that you're showing us. That is actually on the TV in the photograph. I see.
I think they're about to say these are two ghosts bumping uglies. This is the first thing their mind went to was these are ghosts having sex, I think. But I haven't watched it all.
Well, I have to say, the more I stare at the photo, the more I feel like I can see a very if I'm letting my imagination run away with me, I feel like I see a large member in the middle of that conglomeration.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that could be, you know what? That could be a rear end right there.
Could be. It could
right
be.
Here. You see that right there.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I need to give it a bit more time.
Well, I'm glad that ghosts if they're going to exist, they should have some fun, right?
I think so. Yes. So let's let this play out a little bit more.
You can see picture coming out the TV
right next to the television.
Yeah.
An apparition, perhaps, showing some ghostly relations. She claims to have seen ghosts at home before, but this?
I never seen anything like this. I mean, I didn't think ghosts still have feelings. They having sex.
Now, Diane could only laugh about the mortem lovemaking in the house. I was a little more freaked out about the time she saw a little girl.
I think she's just like, this is going to be funny. We'll get the news in. And
it is funny. It's funny that they got themselves on TV talking about this. I congratulate them.
Standing.
And another time, while checking out a new hairstyle, Diana snapped this picture with someone else's reflection in the mirror.
Where is it?
With the long hair, with the
So she's taking a picture. Like this is before selfies were a thing. And I don't know.
Except she was low. And then there was this. Diana believes it's a new voicemail message from her deceased sister. And I love you from beyond. Diana says it's true.
That was the most compelling part of that story. That was the thing I thought, well, maybe.
Okay. Wow.
But yeah, that was the only one I found video on. There was some other stories there. Ghost theft. So I'll share this one.
Well, I mean, remember, this is, after all, I keep thinking this is more of an audio rather than visual medium. So,
Well, let's read this one for the people that are listening. Ghost theft. You would think a former police officer charged with upholding the law would be the one to commit massive theft, but that's what Joseph Hughes of Mount Gilead, Ohio, again, another Ohio person, was convicted of back in 2011. But did he do it, or was it the work of something from the other side? Hughes claimed that the stolen goods found stockpiled in his basement, including several air conditioners and a generator, were put there by a ghost. It's going to sound ridiculous, but we believe that there was some kind of paranormal presence in the basement, Hughes said. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but there was evidence to support it.
This guy was a police officer?
Yes.
My God.
At what point, like when you're in the shit, at what point do you decide, okay, you have options. You can say, okay, I need to come up with some sort of a story I can run. I can, give myself up, because at this stage, I'm not going anywhere with this. Or at what point did this legend decide, you know what, I'm going to really just go out there. I'm going to say ghosts. I'm going to go ghosts brought this shit into the basement.
Wow. How did that work out for him? Do we know?
This is the thing. I didn't remember when I said I didn't prepare quite well at the beginning of the show. I don't know what happened with that. Let's see if we can find out what happened to, what was his name? Joseph Hughes of Mount Gilead. What do you think happened to him?
I'm going to guess he was found guilty of theft of air conditioners and a generator. Oh, well, it says right at the end, they ultimately didn't buy it, and Hughes was found guilty of 18 of the 20 charges.
And now I want to see, is this a real story, though? Or is this...
That's always a good question. These internet things,
Yeah. He was convicted. The prosecutor alleged that he had stolen items. Doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about ghosts, so I'm starting to wonder about the provenance of this article.
Well, no, there it is on www.10TV News, 10TV.com, WBNS CBS affiliate in Mount Gilead, Ohio.
Do they mention ghosts?
Man accused of theft uses paranormal defense is the headline on that article.
We have ghost vandalization. Lisa and Phil Wrigley of Clifton, Nottingham. So this is in my neck of the woods. We're so angry about a series of attacks. So I think I mean series on their vehicles that they set up some home cameras to catch the culprits in the act. But they got more than they bargained for. At about 1:30 a.m. on the 1st of August, one of the cameras caught what looked like a child spirit or form, glowing white and wearing a hoodie. That's an interesting detail. Jumping over the roofs of their cars. The couple was shocked, even skeptical. Phil admitted, I'm cynical about ghosts because I don't believe in them, but this footage is strange. Lisa added that she was absolutely gobsmacked, so that's surprised if anybody doesn't know. By this, I've got footage here. It's the image of a young child, about 4 or 5. It's a ghost. It's gotta be. Mrs. Wrigley was especially convinced it was no ordinary child because their dog always barks if there are people around, but did not wake the family that night, maybe because there was nothing there. The Wrigleys ultimately decided not to pursue the ghost for criminal damages. Very smart. After they could find no marks on the cars following the incident. So they're unhappy about an incident that they caught on camera that did absolutely nothing to their cars. There you go. Ghost vandalization.
I've got one for you. Ghosts affecting reality. So this one comes. I'd found an article about haunted hotels. Always a fun thing. Hotels with haunted rooms and things like this, supposedly. And there's one down in your favorite state, Florida, the Island Hotel and Restaurant in Cedar Key, which has a lot of is built in 1859. It's a colonial style hotel, and like a lot of such hotels, they have a lot of stories. But particularly, there is a room there, room 29, which supposedly has, and room 33, room 29 and 33, I think, are both supposedly specifically haunted. And perhaps the most interesting of the items, right, that supposedly happened here. One for forensic files, though, is an apparition that Stanley's daughter, Shields, and Stanley's one of the operators of the hotel, saw in the family's private apartment. It was, quote, a head with some fuzzy beard, unquote, which, quote, floated through the room and the wall and was gone, unquote. When Shields was shown a portrait of former owner Simon Feinberg, who converted the property from general store to hotel in the early 19th century, she identified him, that is Simon Feinberg, as the owner of the floating head. Feinberg died under suspicious circumstances, expiring of food poisoning in room 33 after dinner with his property manager, whom he had confronted about an illegal still on the property. So there's, first of all, the possibility that this guy was murdered. And second of all, the strange idea that this person saw a ghost and then was able to pick the ghost out of a photo lineup. And it turned out to be
too. Because you know what it was? It's the beard. It's, it's going back to the whole Brian Laundrie thing. The second you see a beard, anybody with a beard is exactly who you think they are.
Well, they all look alike to me, bearded.
I mean, a floating
clean
head,
shaven. Yeah.
You see a floating head, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, and I wouldn't think you would be likely to not recognize it if you saw it again. You know what I mean? I
wonder how many people in that hotel had maybe died, and how many of them had beards. I wonder if she's investigated if there's any other bearded, assailants or any bearded victims in that hotel previous to that. It seems like a big jump just to go, well, that guy died and he has a beard, so that must be him.
And here's another one from a hotel. This one in the Reed House Historic Inn and Suites in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was a large hotel. It looks very promising and beautiful if you're ever in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this one, again, is tied to a specific room, in this case, room 311, where supposedly the guests often have a hard time sleeping, especially those who are smokers. We think that's because of the husband, says Wesley Sang, director of marketing for Reed House's owner, Advocate Hospitality. Annalisa Netherly, who is supposedly the ghost haunting room 311, supposedly was found by her husband with another man in the room, and he ended up sort of decapitating her in the bathtub. Yes. And so men are now sometimes seem to check out in the middle of 311 in the middle of the night because of weird activity. One guy said he stayed there and the phone just rang and rang and rang, and every time he picked it up there was no one on the other line, but it kept going on. When they did renovations at one point, a $27 million renovation, the door to the room would not open. They ended up having to saw the door in half to get access. And the room itself is actually bookable. But you have to call and specially request it because it has no TV or like the whole hotel has been renovated, but no TV or electronics will ever be in that room. It will be left in its original condition.
Well, I mean, that's a brilliant piece of marketing right there.
Yes, indeed.
Would you have any interest in staying in a room that people claim or the hotel claims is haunted?
Yes, I would.
And what would do you believe in ghosts?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm willing to play along with a good marketing scheme.
I would, yeah. I'm fascinated. I don't believe in ghosts, but I'd be fascinated. Like I would go on a ghost hunt. I was fascinated by their shows because they always go at night, where it's hard to see things, and they have technology to find ghosts that they have no idea whether this actually does find ghosts. They've just sort of theorized it and said this is gospel and this is how we go ahead and do that. But I don't understand why people are afraid of ghosts. I don't get that, because I've never heard of anybody actually dying from a ghost or being, hurt in any way by a ghost, really. So what's there to be afraid of?
I've heard of people who claim that ghosts can have a malevolence to them. There's a famous, I'm going to refer once again, the frequent viewers of our channel know that I have a weak spot in my heart for unsolved
mysteries. Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, like, one of the cases, I participate again in a message board that discusses some of the cases. And there's a thread on there about your least favorite case or case you think that they should never have done. And there is actually one that because ghosts to me are harmless fun if they're done around Halloween or whatever. Like, one of the hotels is the Lizzie Borden house, you know what I mean? Now, of course, there was nothing harmless about what she did that day, but it's a long time ago, and people want to play ghost, or like I was in what do you call it, Colonial Williamsburg, and they have a ghost tour. Gettysburg has a ghost tour. Okay, all harmless fun, but this particular segment that Unsolved Mysteries did was about supposedly this subdivision, and particularly one particular house, I think it was in Texas, was built, and they discovered that it had been part of an unmarked burial ground for slaves. And so this family starts claiming that, like the slave ghosts are doing stuff. And at first it seems like kind of cutesy stuff, but then, of course it's a white family. And the next thing, they're stealing shoes. And I mean, like, it's like literally like this is like the most racist segment, right? I mean, you got this white family like, oh, these black ghosts are stealing our shoes. And then the next thing is like, eventually it actually builds up to the daughter gets so supposedly I think it's the daughter-in-law gets so fed up with the ghosts one day and they're tormenting that she goes outside to dig up the graves that are supposedly in the back. She starts like shoveling her way through and she dies of a heart attack. And they blame these black ghosts for dealing, like their white daughter died and they couldn't accept the fact that she died of a heart attack. They had to invent black people to have killed her.
Yeah. The fact that she sat on the couch 8 hours a day and, probably didn't have a vegetable. And this was the first physical activity she had done in the better part of 10 years.
Yeah. She was 29 years old. So how could this possibly be?
It's like, it kind of goes back to whenever you hear somebody giving an account, they're guilty of something and they call 911 and they need to put blame on somebody else.
Yep.
The second they say black fella, it's like, well, okay, so clearly you're guilty of doing something here.
Yeah.
And it's to this family to the degree that they're like, things are missing. There's no black people around, but I know there's black ghosts here. So they may not be alive, but these are the ones that we need to keep our eye on.
Right. So, I mean, there's an example where the ghosts, like people do claim that ghosts, actually do things bad. That one just sticks out in my head. I mean, I'll be honest. Like if I were like, I mean, come on now, you went upstairs into your house, let's say, and the light bulb went out. And now it's dark. And you're in a hallway or something like that. And then all of a sudden you see a floating apparition that you weren't planning on seeing. You telling me brave Sean isn't going to jump out of his skin or be in any way intimidated by that?
I don't think so, because I had there was a few times where I thought I saw something and I think I was just really tired. And I just remember like I was half asleep and I remember there was a towel hanging on like I have a closet door and there was a towel hanging on it and it didn't look like Casper. It wasn't like that. But it was the way the light was hitting it and the way there was like a chair right in front of it. It looked like somebody was standing there. And the window was open, so it was moving, and the way it was moving looked very human-like, very just it was just a collection of shit that just looked like something that was human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people do. You personify things. You try to put some sort of order to them. And I saw this, and it didn't really frighten me. I actually thought because I was coming out of sleep, oh, a ghost, and I was excited. I'm like, I get to see a ghost. And I was just like sitting there staring at it. And then as my brain starts to kick in, I'm like, you are such a dick. That's a towel and a chair. But at no point
I'm going to go ahead and say that this experience of yours doesn't count. And here's why. Because you're coming out of sleep. And so you're not really in. I mean, like if you're in a cold, rational, regular situation, it's 10:18 where you are right now, right? So it's dark, it's nighttime, it's about time when you hang up from this to start heading to bed, right? Now you go upstairs, you're not in bed yet. You know, but it's time. It's getting to that point in the evening. You wake up and you go upstairs. You haven't been asleep yet, and now the light bulb suddenly goes out in the bathroom for no apparent reason, and now you have to kind of feel your way there because whatever, and you start going there, and then all of a sudden, with a glowing luminescence that comes from nowhere is a big floating head. This doesn't freak Sean out.
All right, so let's talk about the head. Does the head is it bloody? Is it just does it look friendly? Is it someone I know?
Tell me about the head. The head is I won't say I'll say the head is a neutral expression. Just as sort of think of just a floating expressionless head, just sort of flat expression,
like a mannequin almost.
Yeah.
I think I would be startled. I would keep my distance, but I would be fascinated by it. I think. I so don't believe in ghosts that I would be so what is that? I would almost be I need to I don't know. You may not believe me. If I saw aliens, I would be afraid because I believe there's there's a possibility there's aliens. Whereas ghosts, I don't believe. I just don't believe. And if there was an alien outside, I'd be like, okay, forget a person. If there was a person staring at my door, I'd be like, shit, why are somebody staring in my window here? But if there was an alien outside, I don't know what their MO is. I don't know what their game is. So I'm scared at that point. But if I see a floating head, I'm just like, what is that?
I hear your point. All right.
So I'm not saying I'm a tough guy because there's things that would scare me.
Okay.
I think I get excited if I saw a ghost. I would be startled. I might even step back. I might even run into the other room for a second. So maybe I wouldn't say scared. I'd be startled.
I mean, startled for sure, but I'm picking up what you're putting down because I'm in your category. I think my first thought, would be like Ebenezer Scrooge in a Christmas
was badass
Carol.
about it. He was
You might be a bit of undigested beef or whatever, right?
Yeah, you can piss off.
Yeah, there's more humbug than what is it? There's more something than something about you.
Oh yeah, I can't remember what that is.
Yeah, I'm just blanking on it at the moment.
Yeah,
more gravy than of grave. More gravy than of grave.
Thank you.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm not like this big tough guy, but that's something that I think I would be so happy. I'd be like, oh, I get a ghost experience. This is real, and for me, I would love to see a ghost. I would absolutely love it.
Do you want to cover one more true crime committed by
a
spirit before we go?
Yes.
I'm interested in number 1 here, ghost murders.
Let's run it. Let's do it.
Well, it says that one can hardly imagine a bigger monster than a mother killing her own children. Nayana Patel of East Asheville, North Carolina, was arrested in late August 2011 for the murder of her 2 sweet and outgoing girls, 8-year-olds Jaya and 4-year-old Paya. Worse, the murders were carried out in an extremely gruesome manner with a hatchet. Patel's husband Lalo made the grisly discovery when he arrived home to find his wife hitting herself in the head with the hatchet and his children bloodied on the floor. He frantically called 911, but it was too late. According to investigators, when asked about her motives for this senseless crime, Nayana would only tell police that the ghost killed her children. She further added that she didn't want to live and refused medical treatment for her self-inflicted injuries. It's just a terrible, terrible incident that occurred, said Lieutenant Wallace Welch, interim chief of police. So, I mean, that really just sounds like somebody, a paranoid schizophrenic. I was hoping there'd be more meat on that bone, but
that, people are, I think, more scary to me than ghosts.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Because there's not, I think my wife's thing that she's scared about the most is, I think having somebody in her house that isn't here to rob things, like that the unpredictability of somebody who is not mentally sound is the scariest thing. And then the next step would be having them in the house.
Yeah.
Intense. So that film, I never saw it, but it looked like a good idea for a horror film. Was it The House Next Door or something like that? Where I think people randomly broke in and I don't know if they tortured or whatever these people that were in this house, but that would be my wife's biggest fear.
I feel like I saw this movie. It was was it made originally in Europe and then they did an American or an English language version?
I don't know. I only heard of it as an American thing.
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Well, that is our effort at a Halloween episode. I think we are going to be getting back into deep dives on a few things and sort of scattering that with some more relaxed episodes. But I think again we're still trying to sort of get caught up with being off for quite a while. Andrew, we'll catch up in the next week or so to find out where we're going to next with our next story, next show.
All right, sounds good.
So everybody who's joined in, thank you for being patient and sticking around. And please do subscribe. We do enjoy doing this and would like to get more people jumping in on the call. But anyway, till next week, Andrew, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.